Listen up, genius. If you're like me and you're unsure of which island to start on or how to properly structure your lair, you've come to the right place. I'm going to be sharing everything I've learned from about 25 hours of experimenting in the tutorial section on all 3 different islands. Let's get started. Our first island is the Crown Gold, which is the recommended starter island and is described as a classic tropical paradise casino and is most vulnerable to the Patriot forces because of how close it is, but can also be threatened easily by Saber and Smash. So keep that in mind when you're farming the world map and generating heat. There are 2 entrances to your base that you will want to defend, one by your helipad and the other by the casino side, which, by the way, the casino side has a few spots in there that you can dig out for some extra space during the early game. So the first few rooms we'll be talking about are the vault, the power station, and the control room. You'll want all of these deep in your base because those scummy, slimy FOJs love these rooms. In particular, there's a few characters which I won't spoil that really go after some of these rooms, and you're gonna want to put them in the back. Just trust me on this. Also, make sure you leave some space to expand all of these rooms because early on, you're gonna have to keep expanding them a few times before you unlock multiple floors in your base. So make sure you leave a little bit of wiggle room. Your inner sanctum as well as your laboratory will also be going somewhere in the back. Laboratory, how do you lab? They don't require much space early on, but it does depend on which evil genius you're playing because depending on which one, you might want to expand one versus the other. Oh, one last one, the prison can also be placed near the back and you can expand it early on, but you don't need to. I would also recommend putting the training room somewhere near the prison just so that it's kind of near the back, but not really. And you're going to want to leave a little bit of room for the training room to expand because as you get more minions, you're going to want to add more training devices. So make sure you leave some space to expand the training room for your future minions. Here's a pro tip. I like to add a small power station with incinerators at the intersection of my main halls so that it helps with when things get a little out of pocket in the lair. Now let's talk about what you're going to want near your entrances. Closer by the entrances, you'll want to have your barracks, the mess hall, the archives, and your armory. The barracks will have lower heat. I've seen some agents take pictures. I'm not sure if that's intended, but it also has the benefit of having your minions constantly passing by the entrance because they're going to be going to sleep back and forth. So as soon as agents walk through the main entrance, if you've already marked them or if you have like an auto mark set up later on, your minions will get to there a lot quicker because they'll be right next to the door. The armory, on the other hand, does attract a bit of attention, so if you prefer to put it closer to the back, do that. Just make sure you leave an easily accessible path for when you have your cameras set up because you don't want your guard minions to have to travel 5 business days to reach the agents invading your base when everything's going down because then it's just too late and then you got bodies outside being shot, you got body bags stacking. And last but not least, the staff room and the infirmary can be placed anywhere between these areas. Just try not to overlap your expansion zones. And bam! Here's what my base looks like. There you go. You can look at it. It's okay. Take my ideas if you want. Copy paste it. I don't care. Let's move on. Next up, we have Las Montañas Gemelas, which is Spanish for the Twin Mountains and has some pretty dope pillar action going on. Smash forces love this island, but Saber will also be more likely to attack you here if you're messing with their areas on the world map. There are 2 entrances in the middle and there's 2 sides to build on, right? So what you're going to want to do is slap your power station, control room, and your vault on the bigger side, while again leaving some space for the early to mid game to make those rooms bigger. I was also able to fit my laboratory and inner sanctum here, and instead of putting a prison, I put an archives room to help my minions recharge faster for research purposes. I would recommend adding 1 or 2 rooms on the big side that would help with recharging stats so that your minions have less travel time, depending on the playstyle you are going for. Something like a barracks or a staff room nearby will save a lot of time and help everything function more efficiently in your base. On the smaller side, you'll want your prison if you didn't put one on the big side, as well as your armory. If you want a more aggressive playstyle, putting these buildings near your entrance helps so that your combat minions respond faster to invaders. Otherwise, make sure you keep them a little bit away from the entrance so that the agents will spend more time going through your traps or being escorted out, whatever your playstyle may be. Don't forget your barracks, mess hall, and infirmary, as well as any other stat rooms you may have missed, like your staff room or an archives. This second island I felt was a lot more flexible than the first one because it offers two sides, one big, one small, but you start on the top floor, and as you go lower into your base, the big side actually becomes the small side and vice versa. So keep that in mind when you're thinking about your final base, because again, as you go lower, the big side will become smaller. One extra tip I can offer is turning some of the early casino space into minion rooms if you need it. I also found that turning the corridors that I didn't need into barracks instead helped me save some space, but eventually I still had to dig out some of the casino area. Luckily, this island has plenty of space to work with. You just might have to do a bit of renovating. Our final stop is Kaneki. I think I'm saying that right, I don't really. Or better known as the Donut of Doom. I added the Doom part, but it should be included if you ask me. On this island, the Anvil forces will be most likely to attack you, followed by Saber. One unique effect on this island, however, is that the Patriot forces actually have a lower than normal threat level, so it pays to farm Patriot early on if you want an easier time. This third island is by far my favorite out of all three, simply because there is only one way in and one way out. Overall, it is slightly smaller than the second island, but it offers more initial space than the first and second island combined, which means more building space at the start for you to use. With all this building space, you can design your base pretty much however you want, while keeping in mind, of course, that you'll be moving everything eventually, so don't get too crazy. Even though this island offers so much freedom, I'll still briefly walk you through what worked for me on my second playthrough of this island. So just like before, you'll want your power station, control room, laboratory, inner sanctum, and vault as far away from the entrance as possible. Personally, I dug in about halfway through the entire base because I already knew what I wanted to build for multiple floors, but I recommend you use up as much space as you want here. Don't be afraid to dig all the way in. If it means you have to grind a bit of extra gold at the start, that's okay, because it will save you some time going back and expanding later on. With all the extra space, you can even place your prison near the back, as well as a big training room for your future minion. This also means that you can make the entrance however you want, with either a big long corridor of traps, or you can build the usual barracks with all your stat buildings, such as mess hall, your staff room, your infirmary, and your archives. Don't forget your armory. Since the enemy can only invade from one direction, it's useful to place your armory according to how you plan on taking over the world, whether that be through force or with a bit of discretion. Alright folks, that pretty much wraps up this video. I hope by now you have a better understanding of all three islands, and more importantly on how to build and structure your base for early to mid game. You're welcome. Thanks for watching. Don't forget that like button, and I'll see you next week for more content most likely. Okay, bye.